If you know that you have really high standards and you are predominantly lonely because of that, and you probably do not have many relationships that were serious because of your high standards, and now you're in a place where you are lowering your standards because you realize that you're being dumped a lot by a lot of men or women because you got high standards, they clown you. So either you join them and keep your standards low, or you will be made to feel like an outcast by society, as somebody who is very difficult to deal with, as somebody's standards are way too high. But in your lens, your standard is very standard and realistic because you expect people to be as they come with no pretense. For the longest period of time, I thought that I was extremely undateable because of my standards, and I was made to feel like I'm asking for too much, I'm expecting too much because of my high standards. And my high standards, mind you, is emotional standards, which comes with reciprocity, commitment, loyalty. But it looks like I was asking the wrong people who were not there for the long haul and who didn't want to put in any effort when it came emotionally. So even if they spend financially, I don't really give a shit because I'm not looking for a man's pocket, and that's just like the woman I am. But for men or women, if you're lowering your standards just because you want somebody to date you, why would you want to be in a relationship with somebody who does not respect you or your standards? However, they will still be with you because you're easy. And I've been in that mindset for over 10 years when I started dating down and lowering my standards to a point where I thought I was the problem because of having standards. And even after having low standards, I still got dumped the same way. So when I look back, and when you look back, look at your relationships and see how many situationships have you been in, how many relationships that you call real relationships are actually real for you. If you are somebody who also lowers your standard to get people accept you, because you know in real life you would never accept that friend's behavior. You will never hang out in places like that. You will never deal with people like that, especially romantically. But because you have a wound of wanting to be accepted, because you do not want to not be accepted, because you are so concerned of how people see you, and you'd rather have low standards than walking alone. And when you are afraid of walking alone, what do? You lower your standards. And so you start to attract women and men which deep inside you know that you deserve better. But now you've gotten into a habit for years of dating down and lowering your standards just so that you can tell the world, your friends, your family, oh, I have a man, I have a woman. But you know that man, that woman does not take you serious, even if for the world they call you their man, their woman. You know some things that's happening in the relationship is not up to your standard. But now that standard has become a norm for you because that's how the world has seen you. The type of people you're hanging with now, the type of things you're loving in the relationship. People may know or may not know, but deep within you know that's not you. In spite of you knowing that you deserve so much better, it's that fear of lonely, it's that fear of being left alone that you'd rather settle with any Tom, Dick, Harry man or woman versus you finding that man, that woman who wants to give you equally, who wants to make you feel good in the relationship. And this is all about emotional. I'm not talking about anybody's financial status, because many a times people can buy you gifts, take you on trips, you good, and make you forget about your problems. I'm not talking about those type of men, those type of women, but you as a man or woman who's having high standards, you end up attracting exactly that which makes you jaded. And eventually, when you come out of that healing journey, however long it may be, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, one day hopefully you will find that standard for yourself and you'll start living in it. Because when you heal, you make friends with your inner child again. So how was your inner child? What were your standards like? What did you like? What did you dislike? Did you think twice before voicing your opinion? It was before you were jaded. It was before the world happened to you. And if not, then find that standard, because at the end of the day, people end up breaking their hearts, especially those who have high standards, who've lived a life of high standard and purposefully lowered it because the society made you do so, because the society made you feel that you are not good enough for having those high standards, and they turned your high standards into you being a problematic person, into you being undateable, especially when it comes to relationships. So you end up finding yourself with players, man or woman, or with people with serious commitment issues, or most of all, almost relationships, situationships. Because somewhere, somehow, this woman, this man just can't build it with you. And there's nothing wrong with you, but you start hating the fact that it's probably my standards, it's probably me being a difficult person who just wants really standard things though, emotionally. Getting feelings back, getting emotions back, reciprocity, people doing things for you, you doing things for people, without you being a masculine or feminine. I'm not into that gender shit, but just being balanced and loving with one another is too much. Respect is too much. A man not having multiple women is too much. A women not having multiple men is too much. You want him to get married is too much. There's so many men and women now have given up the fact of being married and wanting kids just because you don't want to come off as old school. That's your standard. So why are you lowering it? In life, always remember, experiences that you attract, men that you attract, women that you attract, is the standards that you have for yourself. So you can be the most independent man, the most independent woman, the richest man, the richest woman, whatever. But if you do not have standards, if you do not have certain confidence in yourself, even if you don't get a man for the rest of your life, even if you don't get a woman for the rest of your life, you didn't lower your standard. You didn't change who you were. Because coming from a place where I had completely lowered my standard, and the experiences that I had only brought multiplied betrayals, only brought multiplied heartaches, depression, and whatnot. And everybody has their own story. But when you look back and think, it's not those dirty friends, it's not those dirty strangers, it's not those dirty third-party connections, and it's not those dirty lovers, but it's you. Because when your standards are low, you allow people who operate on that standard. And for them, probably those standards are high for them. And that's okay, to each his own, to each your own. But for you, you are now attracting those people into your life, and every day you live with a thought in your head which slowly goes away because your standard goes lower and lower. So from feeling an outcast when you lower your standard, now you blend there. And then when they come into your life, because you invite them with open arms, they f you over, they ruin you if they can, they use and abuse you for however long, until you have another experience with other type of people with the same standards. The learning comes from you, that you need to understand lessons repeat and keep repeating in the form of people until you don't pick up yourself, until you don't look into yourself in the mirror and give yourself a pep talk, show yourself some tough love, and just understand what has lowering your standards done for you so far. If you are right now in a place where you are watching me and you know you're lowering your standards when you can achieve so much more, and you actually have really high standards, and now you're just trying to fit in, and therefore people are trying to put things in your ears, your BFFs, your boys, your girls, your all of that, your family, saying, oh, now look, you're so happy because you've lowered your standards. Are you really happy though? Are you happy when you go to bed? Is that you? Or you rather have high standards and have some respect from your own self first? Because people respect people who respect themselves. And you rather walk alone and take it from a former people pleaser. When your standards are low, you'll be invited everywhere. You'll be busy. Your phones be buzzing every day. But soon enough, your standards go high and watch people drop off your life like flies. But high standards show you who kept it 100 with you from the beginning. And you'll soon realize from a group of 100, thousands, 10, 2, you go to 0. If you're lucky, you'll have 1 or 2. And that's when you know people only mess with you because you had low standards. Because when you have low standards, it's easy to manipulate people. And people who already have low standards, they can sniff people who are insecure, who actually have high standards, but they like to break them down to make themselves feel good because they're not ready to increase their standards at all. So how dare you have high standards? So they like it when you break it down. And they watch you break your standards down every day. Why? Because they already know that you are insecure about your standards. So now that you're insecure about your standards, you're going to say yes to everything that they say. You're going to probably play dumb, and they probably think that you're dumb as because you don't want to take space. And when you don't want to take space, when you don't want to have high standards, you will not be different. And the society has put us in a place where we are supposed to fit in, because if we do not fit in, then they call you weird. Oh my God, she's weird. Oh my God, he's so weird. They only hang out alone. Oh my God, they're too difficult to deal with. They think they're all high and mighty. When in reality, you just have high standards, because when you have high standards, you can attract the right people and they appreciate your high standards. And these people will not make you feel small and less than about having high standards, but they will meet it. Very few people in this life have standards at all, let alone it being high. And when you come around with your insecure self about having high standards, then that is when the predators come attack you. Because people like you to be on a lower level, not working on yourself, not going within. But all you gotta understand is you're operating in a world where people expect you to have your standards low. So if you have your standards high, keep it high. And then there will be reciprocity. Why? Because you will also meet their high standards. So when somebody respects themselves enough, if a man or woman respects himself or herself enough, they will meet you at a certain standard that you have for yourself, because you too respect your own self, and therefore you'll respect each other, and therefore you'll meet each other on the same level as a man, as a woman who is in love with each other, as a man or woman who are friends with other people, who are colleagues, whatnot. The kind of people around you will change, but now you don't settle. And when that happens, you may have very little people in your corner, but these people are going to be your ride or dies, your soul tribe. So just remember, who raised you? How were you raised? And if you don't like how you were raised, then don't be that mother who raised you. Don't be that father, that guardian who raised you. Raise better people. Make people feel good and be better people. If you were raised in a household where your parents kept it 100 with you and they asked you to keep your standards high, irrespective of how much ever you have in your account, keep your emotional, your spiritual standards high, then you deserve that from people. Don't let the world get you jaded. Don't let the world, who's not even connected to you, make you feel like something is wrong with your brought up, see, and you having high standards and you as a person, and lower your standards because of that. Because unfortunately, the world is cutthroat. And if you don't fit in with them and with their ideologies and with their brainwashing behavior, then you will be a problem. And that can be in the most smallest to the most biggest decision on a micro or a macro level that we make as human beings and individuals. So be very careful of how you show up in the world, because how you show up is what you attract. Yes, everything comes with material power. Everything comes with what he carries, what she carries on her, where they sit on the hierarchy, whatever it may be, I don't care. But at the end of the day, how much of a rich or poor one may be, people will respect you if you respect yourself. You allow people to do whatever they do to you. And so expect people to show their true colors when you call them out on their BS. We no longer accept their BS. So the day you understand that you are somewhere that you're not, you get out of there. It's never too late to bring a change, and it's never too late to spread change. But don't get bitter. Please get better, and let people get better if you don't want to. Yeah, you're not undateable. Your standards are just too high, which is very standard for you emotionally, and which is everyone's right to get that back. So keep where you are, stand where you are, and be who you are. And if you are lowering your standards right now, please don't, because the right people will appreciate you and love you for who you are. Talk to toe. I love you.